Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah, I need to get rid of this thing.
There you
All right, Nate, we can see your presentation.
Okay, good deal.
Online, they're saying it's good. Can he hear us?
I can hear you guys.
Okay.
We're good to go?
Yes.
Go. Okay. Okay, apologize for that. As Anita said, my name is Nate Brawley. I'm the Assistant in Extension for Livestock Production, and I currently live in Safford, Arizona, and I cover Graham and Greenlee counties. And so livestock, and this, specifically cattle is my passion. It's, since I was a little boy, I just loved everything about ranching and cowboys and just, everything about livestock production was always has been a passion of mine. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I apologize for not being there in person. Again, it's a busy time of the year, and just life in general just didn't allow me to be up there with you. But I'm going to kind of discuss some livestock considerations for small farms and ranches. And so I think that's kind of an interesting term. When we talk about livestock considerations, one, the word small, and then also the farm or the ranch. I think that what consists of a small operation. Well, I think that depends on where you are in the country and even where you are within the state of Arizona. Again, are we talking about small as being an acreage, measurement of acres, or are we talking about animal units, or maybe the number of head that you have? Again, I think that it varies depending on who you are, where you live, and what resources you have available to you. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. I don't know about you guys, but moving forward, I look at this grass-fed beef package, and I try to look at it from the point of view of the consumer. And I just feel like, man, we've really done a lot to confuse these folks. And when there's been a debate even within the industry, what's good, what's good, better, or best as far as grass-fed beef versus grain-fed beef, and then just the information that we put on the package as far as what really are they buying. And so I think even in the industry, when we look at the list on the right, when we talk about, do you background your calves? Are you in value-added programs? One of the things that COVID's done a lot for us is we hear a lot about direct-to-consumer marketing. How long do you wean your calves? What vaccines do I give? And then do I try to do a niche market deal like the grain-fed versus the grass-fed? So I think even those of us that are in the industry a lot of times get confused. If you read any kind of a beef magazine, or you watch RFD TV on TV, it's there's going to be a lot of information thrown at you, and it may be confusing. So I like I said, I just think, what the heck? What am I supposed to do if I'm a small beginning rancher or farmer trying to raise livestock? Where do I jump in at? What do I do? And I really think that really the key question is, what can I realistically do? What can my operation realistically do well? And again, there's a lot that goes into that, but I think for me in southeastern Arizona, it may vary from allotment to allotment, from ranch to ranch. My neighbors may be able to do some niche marketing type stuff. My other neighbors may sell on Superior, where I have to sell at our local sale barn. We usually go to Wilcox, but again, it changes even from allotment to from neighbor to neighbor. It may change. So Bert Tykert is a beef specialist. He's been an industry expert for a long time. He he wrote in the Beef magazine for a long time, and he has a really good philosophy on having a profitable operation. And he talks about having to have continuous improvement of the key resources, which are land, livestock, and people. So I think I'm going to kind of touch on that a little bit more, but when I ask, what can your operation realistically do well, I think that's what we have to keep in mind. Of the key resources, what do I have available to me? Okay. And again, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what your operation is like. You're going to have to manage those three things: land, livestock, and people and health. Okay. So again, keep those kind of things in your head as we go through these things. So the next plug I kind of want to put in is for BQA. Can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Beef quality assurance. I hope that everybody listening to me has either heard of BQA or is currently certified. Beef quality assurance is kind of like the Beef 101 class for the industry. It's the standard operating procedures for everything beef related. And it doesn't matter if you are a cow-calf guy, if you're backgrounding calves, if you're a feed yard, if you're a truck driver hauling cattle, if you're a packing plant, a slaughter facility or packing facility, there's going to be a beef quality assurance class for you to be certified. And so it is quickly becoming a value-added program. Producers that are BQA certified are starting to see a higher and higher premium, because now more than ever, consumers want to know where their food comes from and how it's produced. Okay, so again, think of it as an SOP, as a standard operating procedure for every aspect of the beef industry. So what BQA does for you as beginning small producers, it allows you to show, when you market your animals, that you are doing everything in your power to do it in a humane way and to do it to the industry standards. So it's you just take with an extension, you can also take it online, but extension does multiple classes throughout the year to get folks certified. And then once you're certified, you have to do, you got to do 3 BQA credits or hours or credits to keep certified every 3 years. Okay, so I would highly challenge each and every one of you, if you're a livestock producer of any size, get BQA certified. Again, it's something that is very easy for you to do, that again, it will bring premiums to you. We're starting to see the larger beef buyers and food companies only buying from producers and from facilities that are BQA certified. So part of the class, we go over these 5 things, right? And again, we in some pretty good detail, and I'm going to discuss some of them today. But again, my challenge to you is, if you're not BQA certified, reach out to Anita or myself, and let's get you certified. So the first part of a BQA is record keeping, and so my question is, why should you keep records? Again, whether you have 1 cow or whether you have 100 cows or 1,000 cows, records are becoming a more and more important, especially on the marketing side. Again, those big buyers, especially, they want to see records on those calves when they buy them. Especially if you're at all in any kind of a value-added program and you're doing those third-party audits. Again, the records are key to being in those programs. And then the liability issue, again, what can you prove? What heaven forbid we have some kind of a infectious disease outbreak. It would sure be nice to have vaccine records on what you've given, what you haven't given. And then again, going back to what can you prove? I used to work at the Wilcox sale barn when I was younger, and multiple times I would see cattle or bulls come through. This specific time was some range bulls, and the seller stated that they were from the express ranches And again, if you know anything about express ranches, they're a high reputable, high quality genetic ranch. And there just happened to be buyers in the room that were associated with the express ranch. And when the auctioneer stated that they were express genetics, the buyer stood up and said, "No, sir, they are not express bulls." So again, if you had records, obviously you would probably sell your bulls with their records. Again, it can help you prove that they are what you say they are. And then we'll talk about some processing records later, but what did you give? When did you give it? What animals got which vaccine? And then your herd records. What, do you have specific cows with specific bulls and specific pastures? Again, depending on your operation, that may be crucial information that you'll want to keep notes. So again, BQA helps with different kind of record sheets that may be helpful to you. And again, those are in the BQA manual and part of the BQA class. So moving on, the next part is stock care or husbandry practices. And so basically the way I look at it is think of it as a management or a stockmanship issue, right? And stockmanship or management, in my opinion, is the number one deciding factor on just about anything we do on the ranch or the farm. How we manage and how we work our animals dictates every other decision that we make, especially with equipment and infrastructure, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more. Can you guys remember, or did you guys recently see in the news where those ranchers were videoed practicing good animal management and techniques? Probably not, right? 9 times out of 10, ranchers or cowboys don't get on the news for doing things the right way. And same with on the dairy side. I don't know if you all remember this Fairview or Fairlife dairy video where workers on the dairy were videoed not practicing safe animal practices and humane animal practices. And again, there was very politicized. It was, there was some other things that kind of came out later, but it had a major detrimental impact on the dairy industry, and especially with the Fair Oaks farm. And I just think this picture is interesting because if you know anything about who's buying beef and who's buying groceries, it's millennial women. They're buying the most groceries and the most food, and so I just think that's interesting that who's out there protesting, the dairy industry and specifically this dairy. Again, we get the same issue with the beef side. So we have to be careful. That's why I say our management, our stockmanship, our animal husbandry, how we take care of our animals, it is more every day, more and more, it is being highlighted and being watched. And like I said, COVID did something to the food chain. It made people very curious and want to know where their food comes from. And so again, now more than ever, we have to be careful. And not just because we don't want to be caught, because it's the right thing to do. We have to practice good animal husbandry practices. So let's talk about some facilities and some infrastructure. Again, so some of this is kind of basic stuff, but I think it's good to highlight different things. If you're like me, I have rode by or drove by miles and miles of the fence on the left. Just being out on an ATV or in a pickup, we see a lot of fence that's like that one on the left. But I would ask, imagine these two producers side by side, which one of them probably sleeps more at night? Probably the guy on the right, correct? Again, depending on your operation, again, fencing is something that we have complete control over. Whether you're on a big operation or a little operation, fixing fence is something that we can do. That again, it's just like everything else, it's becoming more and more expensive, but it's fairly easy to do. It's, I think most guys would say it's not very fun, but again, it's one of those things that we do that, especially if you have, groups of heifers or cows that are in specific pastures, having good quality fence allows you to kind of have a peace of mind that they're going to stay where they're supposed to be. Again, I'm not saying that the fence on the left wouldn't work, but again, if I'm if they're my cows, I want to make sure that they are where I said they are, right? And again, I think fencing, at least for Arizona, is one of those things that we don't give enough attention to. Again, we hear things all the time about trick and different infectious diseases. And again, those things are because we don't do enough fence building in Arizona, in my opinion. So I just kind of put this just as a reference for those that might be interested. Again, just different measurements on different. This is specifically for barbed wire. If you have a BLM allotment, most of them are going to be like this one, third from the left. It's going to be a 4-strand fence. Usually that bottom wire is going to be smooth for wildlife and whatnot. And then depending on your location, your T-posts will be every 12 to 16 feet. That's 9 times out of 10, if you have a BLM contract for fence, that's what they're going to dictate. Again, I just thought I would share that with you. Again, depending on your operation and what you're doing, there's lots of options. And again, barbed wire is it's a commonly used fence just because it's fairly inexpensive and it's fairly easy to put up and fix. Okay. So I would say the same thing about gates. And my question would be, are all gates created equally? Do they all serve the same purpose? I would say no. If you're like me, does anybody ever had an arch enemy like this one on the left? Right. I mean, I when I was a little boy, I used to think, I can't wait till I'm big and strong where these gates don't eat my lunch. And now I'm a little bigger and a little stronger and they still eat my lunch. But again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this gate. That's been used for hundreds of years. Again, it works great. But again, what is it used for? Where again, is this more of a remote? To me, that would be more of a remote gate that I may not use a lot. Whereas this gate on the right, again, if I'm having to open gates, or if they're the other thing that we have to think about, especially if you're on big range country, again, you have the public going through your gates, right? And this gate on the left, that's a problem in my opinion with some operations is those gates seem to be the most that get left open because they're the hardest to open and close. So if you have lots of hunting activity, lots of public activity going through your place, you may think about changing some gates to where they for sure get open or left like you want them. And again, I think when you think about your corrals, which we'll talk about more, think about what the purpose of your gate is. If it's a sorting gate or if it's you're just a pull through gate or whatever. Again, that's going to dictate one, how big it is and where you put it. Okay. So you may need a cattle guard, right? And I think this is funny. Like I say again, this one's obviously not doing a lot. And eventually they can become a safety issue, right? Again, it may seem like common sense, but again, we want them to be fairly clean and safe, and to where they function like they're supposed to. As far as our corrals, again, it totally depends on the operation, right? Again, I go back to what do you do and how can you do it the best you can do it? Do you need a fancy feed yard with, fancy bunks and pipe and sucker rod, uprights and stuff? Maybe not. Depending on your operation, do you need this, this picture on the right? Do you do a lot of work horseback where you need, and you're running cattle through, a lot of times throughout the year, working cattle a lot? It all dictates, again, like I said, your stockmanship, your management, it's going to dictate whether you need corrals like this, right? So I would ask, well, what's wrong with this one? And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that set of corrals. Again, what is it used for? How often is it used? Where's as far as where is it located? Again, this little set of pins, it may only be used once or twice a year, and it may be in a place where you can't get 30-foot joints of pipe and sucker rod into. So I think location, again, location, it's key. And again, depending on your operation. The other thing I would say is, looking at these corrals, it would cattle's disposition is going to be a major determining factor also on the kind of corrals I use, right? If you don't have gentle cattle, if your cattle are a little trotty or a little, kind of wild, again, this set of pins is probably not going to work for you. You may need something like this, right? To make sure your cattle stay where you want them and that you're able to safely for yourself and safely for the animals, safely process them, correct? So again, there for many of the decisions we make, there's going to be a good, better, and best element to it. And that is going to depend on, again, things like how often do you use the corrals? Is it going to be financially feasible for you to go in and do, a 6-rail pipe fence, big with multiple corrals? If you only use it one time a year, it may, that may not make any sense. So it totally depends on each operation. But again, there is a good, better, and best option most of the time. Okay. So talking about some other infrastructure and equipment, the squeeze chute. This is my grandma and grandpa in Colorado in 1952. And again, there was nothing wrong with that squeeze chute, right? They made it work. But the thing to remember in agriculture, whether you're farming or ranching or raising livestock, there is new technology every day. I mean, every single day they're coming out with new things. Again, there's nothing wrong with that squeeze chute, but again, things change drastically throughout the years, right? We now have hydraulic pieces of equipment. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go out and buy a silencer squeeze chute. Again, it's a big piece of equipment, but I know producers that, again, they are preg checking their cows every year, and when they go to a new set of corrals, they have the silencer and they have a skid steer, and they take that puppy with them everywhere they go, because again, that's what their operation dictates that they need. So I say that I show the two differences just to highlight that, again, technology changes every day depending on what you need. There's lots of options between these two squeeze chutes, right? There's lots of options. Okay. I don't know if anybody's seen these or heard of these. These are, we call them triggers, and we usually put them on a water trap. And so, again, this is something that is used quite a bit that I've seen different parts of the state. And again, I put it up just to highlight that, think outside of the box. There's lots of different things that you can do that allows you to use livestock or cattle's natural behavior to manage them. So again, like I say, a lot of guys that I know put these around, a dirt tank, and they're highly successful, especially in the summertime when the cattle obviously have to come to water, that they'll gather a huge portion of their cattle and never swing a leg over a horse. So again, I would challenge you to think outside of the box. What are some of the things that you have at your disposal in your operation that might take some burden off of your time or some of your expenses? Again, some of these things are fairly simple and may save you lots of money and lots of time. So one of the age-old conversations I hear a lot about is which way is best to process. Again, that totally depends on where you're at, right? Do you run calves through a calf table, or do you run through a chute, or do you rope and drag, right? I just highlight one study that was done in Idaho and Oregon State. Basically, they had 48 pairs, and they split them up into 4 groups. And as you can see, basically they did 4 different ways of processing calves that basically they were branding them, castrating them, and giving them their shots, right? So the first one, this first one on the left, they separated from the cows, right? They sorted the cows and calves, and they had a guy go in and just heal them. And the second group, they separated from the cows and they head and healed them. The third one, they left them with the cows, right? Left them together and they head and healed them. And then this one, they separated them and run them through the calf table. And so what they did was they took vitals of the calves, they took some cortisol levels before and after. And this study, they found that this was the keeping the cows and calves together and heading them healing was the least stressful. So I ask, which is better? And again, I would say, just because this information is interesting to me, but if you can't rope, a calf table is going to be your best bet, right? One of the things this study does show is, again, it was done by fairly good guys that could rope. But what was the determining factor for these calves having as little stress as possible? Well, it's probably that they were kept with the cows, not necessarily that they were roped. So my suggestion is, again, do what you, like I said at the beginning, do what you can do best. If running them through a calf table is best for you, again, that can still be done in an efficient and low stress way. And again, on the roping and dragging side, again, I've been to places in southern Arizona where they process 200 head of calves in 4 or 5 hours, and it's very low stress, and again it's fairly smooth. So do what you can do. And again, location. Again, if you aren't able to haul a calf table everywhere you go, you may have to rope and drag. It just totally depends. So be flexible. Again, don't worry about what your neighbors are doing, what your friends and family are doing. Do what you can do best. That goes with gathering cattle, right? Again, some folks gather with a helicopter, some folks gather with a motorcycle or an ATV. Some guys have to rope, or have to, everything's horseback. Again, I look at these two pictures, completely different operations, completely different country. And so again, kudos to these guys for doing what they can do, right? And maybe you have an operation like a BLM allotment where you can't use ATVs or 4-wheelers. We have our experimental ranch in Camp Verde, the V-Bar-V, they do almost everything on a 4-wheeler as far as gathering their animals. Well, when you talk to them, that ranch is like 80,000 acres, and it's long and narrow, and it takes them hours to drive from one end to the other. And so again, they use a 4-wheeler that allows them to run through the ranch fairly quickly. Again, love that idea. It may not be what they want. They may rather ride a horse, but because it allows them to be more effective on their time and their expenses, again, they do what they need to do. So again, I think I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but do what is best for you, not necessarily what your neighbors are doing. Let me unshare this screen. I need to share a YouTube video. Okay, can you see the YouTube video?
No.
Oh, let me go back and share my screen again. Sorry. Maybe. Okay, how about now?
Your screen is sharing. Oh, there it is.
Okay. This guy, his name is Ron Gill. He is, I think, at Texas A&M. He is the man when it comes to all things BQA and stockmanship. And I just want you to kind of listen to what he has to say about stockmanship. Again, I just really, really like what he says in these 2 minutes.
Nathan, the audio is not coming through.
What's that?
The audio is not coming through.
That's not good. Wonder why. Not at all.
Not from the YouTube video.
Well, like I say, I really don't need it. I just thought I'd share it. Let me go back to let's do this. Okay. Okay, you back on that PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for that. Basically, what he says, like I say, I would highly suggest if you've never heard of Ron Gill, look him up on YouTube. He does a lot of things as far as stockmanship and as far as BQA. Again, he's won lots of awards for beef quality assurance. And he does a really good animal handling video, whether you're horseback or on the ground. But basically, what he says is, when we do basically anything livestock related, it's going to cost us money, right? Whether we feed them, we doctor them, we ship them, we haul them, it's going to cost us money. Stockmanship is one of those things that we can do on our operation that doesn't cost us anything, right? And what he says is, cow-calf guys, or the guys that are at the beginning of the beef chain, we don't always think like that. But if you go to a feed yard, they're constantly worried about shrink. So they're very focused on how they handle those cattle, how they process those cattle, and they go to great lengths and measures to make sure that cattle are always handled as stress-free as possible. And I would definitely agree that we don't always do that on the cow-calf side. Where 9 times out of 10 we're short on time, we're short on money, and we don't always have great help. So it's hurry, hurry, hurry. But I would highly agree with Mr. Gill, Dr. Gill, that again, good stockmanship, which we'll talk more about in a minute. Those are things that we can do that put money back on our pocket that doesn't cost us anything. Okay. So think about that. What are some of the things that you do in your operation that may be costing you pounds or daily gain, or just the behavior of your cattle? What are some of the things that you can do to improve the stockmanship on your operation? So one of the things that BQA highly stresses is, how we transport our animals. And again, I don't know if anybody's ever seen one of these. And again, I kind of highlight the semi, the semi truck, the big pots of cattle aspect of it. But this also goes for, just our gooseneck loads. We need to make sure that our trailers and our trucks are in good working condition, they're clean, they're efficient, and that they work properly. It's one of those things that I never understand. We have livestock producers that spend, a lot of money and a lot of time to raise these animals, for, close to a year, and then risk their whole lives, including their own lives, when they haul their cattle to the sale, because their trailers are, might be grandpa's old trailer and the floor was the original floor, and it's just like, again, they're really taking a great risk, because we don't always think about our trailer and our trailer floors and the safety, and again, not just for the safety of the animals, but the safety for ourselves, right? And then again, obviously be careful with your road conditions, your weather, and again, basic stuff. But think about it. Take a minute, think about your trailer, think about how you transport your animals, or if you're hauling big pots of cattle, are you using a reputable trucker? Again, there's lots of options out there. So again, just think about it and see if there's anything as far as your transportation that you could maybe do better. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the processing stuff. The way I like to think about as far as vaccines and giving cattle shots, no matter what we're doing on the ranch or on the farm, as far as an operation, let's say we're digging post holes, right? Okay, if you're the boss, or the boss says, hey, we're going to go pound posts or dig posts, what are you going to need? Well, are you going to use a square shovel or a round space shovel? Right? There's our proper tool for every job that we do. And so I think I try to tell folks, think about it the same way. When we're vaccinating calves, again, we need the right tool and we need the right medicine. Okay. And again, that's going to vary depending on the operation and what you're doing. So as BQA's, again, dictates, be careful with your needle size and selection. You can't really see this as kind of tough, but it has the different gauge of needles, right? What I like best is an 18 gauge needle that's 1.5 inches, right? That allows me to be fairly safe, especially when I'm given a subcutaneous injection or an injection that's under the skin. That helps me stay fairly safe. Again, if it's a subcutaneous injection, right? BQA states that we always follow the directions, always follow what's written on the bottle, right? So again, most of the injections we're going to give is subcutaneous, which means it's under the skin, which means, again, at all costs, don't get it anywhere near the muscle, right? So again, location, which I'll talk more about, but just be careful. As far as your vaccine selection, again, a lot of that's going to depend on maybe personal preference or may be your marketing strategy, right? Again, there's a difference between a killed vaccine and a modified live vaccine, right? Again, I think we're seeing a more and more push from the buyers and from the packers that they want that modified live vaccine. If you've never given a modified live vaccine, again, they're becoming safer and safer. There's an intranasal spray now that's, again, fairly safe for a herd that has never been exposed to a modified live vaccine. But do what I would say that no matter what you're doing, it's going to, just be doing something as far as vaccines. Now, I'm going to tell you, in my personal opinion, I hear when a lot of times in my travels, I'll ask guys, wait, what's your vaccine protocol? Well, we give the 7-way, the 8-way. Again, to me, that's not enough. We are a major export state, which means when we sell our calves are going back to another state. They're going to Kansas, they're going to Nebraska, they're going to Dalhart, Texas. What's the weather like in those places where those calves are going? So you may never have doctored an animal on your operation, but if it's going to Dalhart, Texas, where it was 30 degrees this morning, again, it's going to be a drastic change for those animals, and they are going to get sick. So I would say when you're thinking of a vaccine protocol, work backwards. Where and how do you want to market your animals, and then figure out what's best for your marketing strategy. And again, that's just kind of skimming the surface. But remember, again, everything that we do is hopefully adding value to our operation. So again, pick the right tools, pick the right products, and again, there's lots of industry folks in Arizona, whether it's Zoetis or Merck or BI or that their job is to help you create a vaccine program. So if that's something that you're interested in, get with Anita, get with myself, get with Jocelyn, and we can help you with that. So again, like I said, location, right? BQA, they want any kind of vaccine to be in this triangle right here, okay? And so again, intramuscular, that's in the muscle. Again, read the label, right? If the label dictates that it's intramuscular, again, that's going to probably need a little longer needle. And again, that label is going to probably dictate what tool you use. But there's a reason for staying in that triangle, right? Again, like I said, everything we do is to try to add value to our operation, right? So again, it's a big animal. When we think about subcutaneous, there's lots of skin on that animal. But again, there's a good, better, and best place to put that. And BQA does a lot of audits throughout the country. And again, one of the things that BQA found in their audits is that at the processing level, there was lots of waste because we were given vaccinations improperly. Okay, and so there was meat that was damaged, which I'll show you some pictures in a little bit. There was meat that was damaged, and that was basically, it was a waste because of improper vaccine techniques. So BQA, again, in the triangle, okay? No, if you're given shots that require more than 10 cc's, only give 10 cc's in one injection site, and then move at least 4 inches, or at least, kind of the width of your hand away, or go to the other side of the animal and put it on the other side of the neck. Okay. So again, think location when you're given, when we're vaccinating our calves. Other processing, techniques and things that we do, again, castration. Whether do you castrate with a knife? Do you use a band? What are some of your other, what are some of the other things that you may use for that, right? There's emasculators, there's all sorts of different things. Again, if you can't castrate with a knife, then use a band. Understand though that if you're going to band your calves, there are some other health issues that come with the bands. So again, be educated. Another thing that I guess I probably should have mentioned at the beginning with BQA is one of the things that BQA really pushes is have a good vet-client relationship. Again, the vet's there to help you. So if you need them to come castrate your calves, then pay to do it so it's done right. Do your calves have horns, and are you cutting them off? Is there a good, better, and best way to do that? Again, there is. Do you do the spray on ivermectin spray, or do you do the injectable? Do you use growth implants? Again, that totally depends on your operation and again, I would say on your marketing strategy. But again, these processing techniques are some of the biggest things that some of our consumers have an issue with and want to know about. Again, the growth hormones is a huge one, right? We see that more and more, even in especially in the poultry. Again, you go buy eggs, it tells you no added hormones. Again, I think that's one of those things that a lot of people don't understand. That most of our feed yards throughout the country, as soon as they get there, they're getting a growth implant. So be educated. Try to understand that, again, some of these things have gotten a bad reputation. And again, like I said, technology's changed throughout the years. And so do your homework. Again, reach out to your extension agent or to your specialists or your industry reps and be educated on these things. Because again, these are some of the things that our industry gets hit hard on as far as trying to put us out of business. So I would, again, challenge you to do your homework on some of these things. If you're unsure about doing them or want to do them in the future, become educated on them. Like I said, these are some of the things, again, talking about management and stockmanship and proper vaccines. This picture on the right, anybody recognize that cut of steak right there, or cut of meat, right? That's the skirt steak. Well, that is a bug that basically ruined that whole stretch of meat. So again, something like a pour-on or even an injectable or both, again, would have fixed that, would have kept that from being an issue. This cow on the left, I just happened to be there when she came in, or when they were processing her. She was an old range cow, real high headed and trotty and was wild basically. Had guys get her caught, roped her, tied her to a tree, loaded her in the trailer, took her right to the packing plant. Well, as you can see, look at her feet, or her hind feet were very inflamed. She was a complete loss. This was her meat, dark, maybe just all dark cutter meat, just a complete loss and waste. And so again, this producer had to pay the processing fee and basically didn't get anything out of this animal. So I just highlight that again of be careful everything we're doing is adding value. Why, I'm sure they didn't mean for it to be like this. Again, she was an older cow, and again, you can see almost no back fat on her whatsoever. She was on the thin side anyways, but again, what a complete waste, right? And then on the injection sites, right, you can see where on this cut, again, improper vaccination protocol, right? This is why when it says subcutaneous injection, we want it to be subcutaneous. And like I said, again, talking about that BQA audit, when they first did the first one in 1991, and we highlighted, hey, look, we're having issues. You really need to pay attention to the label. This kind of waste went from 22.3% to down to less than 3%. So that's a major highlight for BQA, again, of what they do well and what they've done for the industry is highlight where we can improve and helps us improve. In closing, one of the things that Bert Teicher talks about is just our employees. Again, if you're having day help and they like to do it a certain way, again, you're in charge, right? They need to do things your way and with your rules. So be sure that, all your employees understand and follow your guidelines. If you're, especially if you're BQA certified, again, that's what a great teaching tool to help some of our folks understand what we want and how we want it done. And then understand that, again, every time we have outside help, there is again, think about the trucks and trailers and the dogs and the horses and the equipment. Again, that opens us up to outside threats, right? Again, I highlight like the strangles and horses. I hear probably every year in the springtime, where day work guys go out and help a lot of different folks, and they kind of pass some of that sickness back and forth from the horse herds. So anyways, just be careful. Again, that goes back to our vaccines and our vaccine protocol. Be careful. So kind of just in closing, some of my key points. Complacency is where we get in trouble, right? We get comfortable doing things the way we do it, or the way that dad did it, or the way that dad or grandpa did it. And where we quit thinking outside the box, we quit trying to be proactive. And that, again, if we're not being proactive, then we're having to react, right? Especially, again, I think a lot about, our vaccine protocol. Again, be proactive in some of your management and stockmanship techniques, to where, again, it's harder to come back from, if you get say it's pink eye. Again, we can vaccinate for pink eye, but if you get it, it's hard to fight, right? When those calves get, in my opinion, it always seems to happen when you wean your calves and you're ready to ship your calves and they start getting pink eye, and then you have to fight that. Good example of kind of what I'm talking about. So be proactive, not reactive, and don't become complacent. And then I really think a lot of times when we're trying to make decisions of what to do and how to do things, a lot of times it's best to think about the end and work backwards. Again, whether it's your marketing strategy or how you're going to work your calves, think about what can you do best and then work backwards. And then again, Mr. Burke Tyker, continuous improvement of land, livestock, and people. Those three things, I really, really agree and appreciate that mindset, because if we're lacking in land, livestock, and people, then we are not going to be profitable. Okay. That's basically all I've got. Again, I kind of just skimmed through lots of different things, but if you have, specific thoughts or questions or ideas for your operation, by all means, feel free to contact me. That's my cell phone or my email. Again, this is, I love this stuff. So like I say, by all means, reach out to me and let me help you. Any questions, comments?